Hey guys, this is Untitled Export and this is a mini review of the Gigabyte Aorus RX 5700 XT. By mini, I mean that we will skip gaming benchmarks this time and focus on the cooling performance of the card. This card features triple 80mm fans where the middle one spins in the opposite direction to the others to reduce turbulence, and it also has a fan stop feature with a fan stop indicator. It is not only a triple fan card but also a triple slot card, which it needs to be to make room for that thick heatsink. This card weighs in at 1170 grams, which makes it quite a bit lighter than the Asus Strix version, and it has a dual BIOS feature. You can choose between the OC BIOS and a quiet BIOS. This is one of only two models that I know of that features 6 display outputs. 3 HDMI and 3 display ports in this case, which, unlike on the 2060 Super Aorus version, can all be used at once. The design of the card is very different to the Aorus RTX 2060 Super that I've looked at in the past. The lighting is not as flashy on this model, and overall the Aorus 5700 XT is much more similar to the Gigabyte RTX 2070 Super gaming OC that I tested not too long ago. That card was lighter but actually had slightly larger fans at 82mm. Now let's get on with it. All tests were done using the 19.9.2 driver, and I will save the reason for that until after the review part. And for the test system specifications you can look down in the description. Now we start off with power consumption while running Firestrike Extreme, and with the OC BIOS the 12V power draw from the PSU peaked at 334 watts, which is about the same as on the Strix model. Moving on to temperature, with the OC BIOS the GPU temp was only 47 degrees Celsius over ambient, making it 69 degrees Celsius in a 22 degree room. This is about the same as the 46.5 degrees over ambient of the Strix model. Now hotspot temperature was 72 degrees over ambient, and the VRM temperatures was 49 degrees Celsius over ambient, which is a bit cooler than the Strix model, but still short of the Red Dragon from PowerColor. Memory temperature was 60 degrees Celsius over ambient, making it 82 degrees Celsius in a 22 degree room, and that is on the warmer end of things, but still slightly cooler than the 63.5 degrees Celsius of the Strix model. The memory on the Red Dragon from PowerColor, however, is almost 10 degrees cooler. The story is a bit warmer with the quiet BIOS. GPU temp was 57 degrees Celsius over ambient, a 10 degree increase over the OC BIOS, and that pretty much sets the tone for the quiet BIOS. Hotspot temperature is 13 degrees warmer than the OC BIOS at 85 degrees Celsius over ambient, which means in a 22 degree room the hotspot temperature would be 107 degrees Celsius, and that was in fact what it was. That is very close to AMD's 110 degrees Celsius limit. The memory temperature was 12 degrees Celsius warmer than the OC BIOS at 72 degrees Celsius over ambient, making it 94 degrees Celsius in a 22 degree room, which is quite warm. Now the VRM temperature also increased by 10 degrees Celsius. That sadly makes the quiet BIOS on the Aorus 5700 XT the worst quiet BIOS that I have tested yet in relation to temperature, but let's see if it is at least quiet. Noise is measured in an open-air test bench 30 centimeters away from the fans with a calibrated microphone. With this silent BIOS I only measured 38 dBA, which is really quiet and means it takes the crown as the most silent 5700 XT I have tested. Although in practice the 0.5 dBA difference to the Strix is not really noticeable. Switching to the OC BIOS and we're now up to 44 dBA, which is 1 dBA above Strix, which isn't really noticeable either, but yeah. Now, however, the interesting thing here is that it is 4 dBA higher than the fans on the Gigabyte RTX 2070 Super gaming OC, and that was noticeable. Now let's see what kind of fan speed it needed to achieve this. With the OC BIOS the fan speed hovered around 1810 RPM, which is similar to the Strix model. Switching to the silent BIOS lowers the fan speed to around 1230 RPM, but as we saw previously this had quite a bad effect on temperatures. Next up is a short noise comparison between the two BIOSes. Now let's take a quick look at average frequency and synthetic benchmark performance. The average frequency when running the Gears of War 5 benchmark was 1961 MHz with the OC BIOS, which is slightly ahead of the Strix model and a bit further from the Red Dragon. The Quiet BIOS did 1880 MHz on average during the benchmark, which places it behind the Quiet BIOS on the Strix, but ahead of the Red Dragon. Now for Firestrike performance. In Firestrike, the Aorus RX 5700 XT takes the crown as the fastest 5700 XT that I have tested. However, switching to the Quiet BIOS drops it down below the Strix model, but a good result nonetheless. Now let's look at performance in TimeSpy. The TimeSpy result pretty much echoes the Firestrike result when it comes to the 5700 XTs, although the Nvidia cards does better in this benchmark. But the Aorus 5700 XT is the fastest 5700 XT yet again. However, switching to the Quiet BIOS does once again drop it below the Strix model. So, how then would I grade the card? For temperature and noise, each BIOS will receive a separate grade. We start off with the OC BIOS. For temperature, the card was below 70 degrees Celsius in a 22-degree room and receives an A. Noise was 44 dBA, which means it ends up at a C. Moving to the Quiet BIOS, for temperature, we were at 79 degrees Celsius in a 22-degree room, which results in a D. Noise with the Quiet BIOS was very good at 38 dBA, and that means it gets an A in noise. Build quality is a subjective grade, and it doesn't just cover how well the card is put together, but also the attention to detail. So this card is very well put together with nothing loose, and it has a very nice backplate. In addition, the cables for the lighting and the fans are black, and there are no rainbow colored wires to be seen anywhere. The heat pipes does drag the overall impression down though. They are not nickel plated, and I would like to see the heat pipe ends have a more consistent finish, such as those found on the Strix card or even the Gigabyte RTX 2070 Super Gaming OC. So for build quality, we end up at a C. Now onto why I had used the 19.9.2 drivers. In the past with the other 5700 XT cards, I never really had any major driver issues. However, the new 2020 drivers just doesn't work on my system. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. I haven't decided whether to keep this card or not, but in any case, I thank you so much for watching, and have a Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whichever you prefer. Farewell.